How's it going, guys? Here's the CSS student again, and we're gonna be doing another challenge called Didactic Octo Paddles. This is a web challenge and it's a medium level challenge, so it's a bit more interesting, right? And obviously more steps to do. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna first spawn the machine, which is already there, and we're gonna download the files, which I already did. If we go to the challenge, to the website, it looks like this. There is a login page, and that's it. That's all we know. Luckily, we got the files, and as you can see, there are a lot of things. For example, there are a lot of endpoints, like login, as we already know, register, there is another one, and then there is card, and much more, right? So that's very interesting for us. And then there is admin, by the way, which admin, it's another point that we need to get there, but we don't know how. And we're gonna go over the code a little bit before we actually start to do the challenge, and I'm gonna point out the vulnerabilities, right? First of all, let's have a look at the login so we understand what's going on. And as you can see, is login, you pass a username, you pass a password. If there is none of these, if there is no username or password, just sends a response for 100 saying that username and password are required. However, if you pass a user and you pass a password, it will try to find it in the database. If there is no user, it just says invalid username or password. Now, if it is valid, then it will try to compare your password against the database password, right? And if it's invalid, it will just say invalid username or password. However, if you get to log in successfully, it will get you a JSON Web Token, which will be signed with the user ID, which in this case, for example, if it's just your new user, might be 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, it will give you that, and it will sign it with a token key. A token key, or also called secret, it's something that we use in JSON Web Tokens, so we can make sure that no one can forge any of their JSON Web Tokens, right? And it will expire in an hour. After that, the cookie is going to be called session, and it will have the value of the token. After that, you're going to send a response saying logged in successfully and all good. If you do anything else that's just weird, it will just send you 500 requests saying something went wrong. Anyways, so I'm a bit interested in the JSON Web Token and the token key. So let's just control click on the token key, and you can see that sends us to another file called authorization.js. Token key, as you can see, it's a crypto, it uses the crypto library, so, and then it generates random bytes in hex, and then that's the token key. So that's impossible for us to actually crack it. We cannot crack 32 hex string, right? Well, just to say something, it's completely hard, it's very difficult, so I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend such. However, I'm gonna save you time because I already did the challenge, and I'm gonna go straight to the meat, right? I'm gonna go straight to the point. I'm gonna go to admin middleware, which is where we actually want to get there. We want to get there, but first, let's just register a user. Register. My user is gonna be called not admin, and the password is gonna be not admin. We register, and the username already exists. Oh yeah, I did that before. Okay, test and test. So register, and we do test, we log in, and I want you to check something over here. Application, there's nothing, and as soon as I log in, we will have a new session here. So there you go. That's the session that we get, and we're gonna play around with that later. But for now, have a look at this. What's happening here? If you have a session, then it will try to get it. It will try to get your session from the cookies, and if you don't have it, it will send you back to the login. Now, it will try to decode the JSON Web Token. The coding doesn't need the signature, doesn't need the token key. It will just get the text. And for those that don't know what is a JSON Web Token, it's just a way of authorizing a username and authenticate it, basically. So here we can see that my ID is 3, right? And it says invalid signature because this is not the signature. All right. So what should we do? First, let's have a read at this, and it says like, okay, well, it decodes the cookie, it decodes the JSON Web Token, and it will get you all this information, right? And then it says if the header is equal to none, then immediately redirect to login. The header, the algorithm is not none, it's HS256, so you will go to this now, which says if is 256, then verify the session, verify the cookie with the token key that we have and the algorithm that it's on the header, which is this one. But in this case, we don't have the token key, so we can't forge our own cookie. Like, we cannot change this just to 1 because it won't work. It will verify it against the token key, and it just won't work. And it will try to find the username, and if it's not the admin, then you're not an admin, right? Right. However, if it's none of this, if it's not none and it's not H256, then it's gonna try to verify the token, but with no cookie, with not secret key whatsoever. And that's very interesting for us. Why? Because we don't need to pass any secret, any cookie, any key or anything, password, which makes it just better for us. And we're gonna try to aim for this step. So we're gonna try to do that, but first we need to bypass this. And to bypass this, there are several ways to do it. I'm just gonna use a tool called JSON Web Token tool, which it runs on Python, and I will explain what it's doing basically. So first of all, I'm like, okay, well, if we cannot use HS256, can we use maybe any of these ones? And spoiler alert, no, you can't. All of them require that sort of, verification token kind of signature. The only one that doesn't require is the none, the one that says none in here, none. But we will be breaking, right? Also, we cannot change it to maybe 1, which I believe that's the admin, but it will change the complete content, and then that wouldn't work. So I'm just gonna copy this, even though I already changed it to 1. And the signature obviously won't work in this case. It will send me back to login if I just put that. But what I want you to know and what I want you to realize is that this first part over here, it's the signature, the algorithm. Sorry, not the signature, the type of algorithm, the header. This second part is the payload, and this blue part is the signature, right? So what are we gonna try to do? Because it's gonna verify it against a null signature, right? So that means we don't need this part over here, right? So what are we gonna do? We're gonna try to forge our own. And if I do echo, and I do this, and I try to delete a lot of this text, and then I just pass it to base64, we can see all this. Now, can I make my own? Perhaps, perhaps not. We can try. Echo -n, and let's patch this, base64, and we get this chunk over here. So we can possibly try putting none instead. None. But we know that none, because of this condition over here, will go to the login straight. However, this doesn't mean none, as in like none is not equal to none. These two don't match, right? So this is a string verification, so I can possibly change it to this, and it will possibly be valid. So let's do that. None, base64, let's see what we get. Hold on, yeah. None, base64, $0, can I do that? Okay, well. If I do this, and I copy this, echo, this base64-d, alright, that seems good to me. Alright, so we have this part, and then we have this other bit, which is the payload. So we're just gonna copy this, and we're gonna paste it, and we're gonna keep it this way. And now, I'm not 100% sure it will work, but we can use a tool later if that's not the case. And what this payload is doing, if I show you, it's saying none, and ID 1, and that's all. So now, based on the logic of the code, it will check for this to be a none, but my none is not the same as the one that they asked. Mine has a uppercase N at the beginning, and my algorithm is not HS256, so therefore it should go to this statement, which it will try to verify it against a null token key, basically, and it will check my header, which is none, and it will verify it. So therefore it should pass, and it will check the ID, and if the ID 1 equals the admin, then I will get the admin, right? So for example, if I right now go to admin, it will say you're not an admin. Alright, cool. Well, let me paste my new session and see if it works. So if I do that, you can see that it actually worked. I replaced it, I made it myself, I didn't have to use the tool. However, bear in mind there's another tool called JWT tool Python, this one, and you can easily copy, like get the code by doing git clone, and it works fabulously. Right? It works if you don't want to craft it yourself. However, I didn't need to. I can just do it myself. Right? And but now we don't see the flag. We don't see the answer. We don't see what's going on. Like there's nothing really. So if you just give me 1 second. So we don't see the flag, right? And let's just have a look at the code again, and let's see if we find something, like maybe back to the index, right? And it's actually very interesting. If we go back to the admin, which is this one, you can see a couple of things like happening in here. One is it will try to find all the users, and it will pass them as usernames. So username is going to be here, right? And what's going to happen is it's going to render them and to templates or something using this library called JS Renders. JS Renders is a bit of a funny library. It's nice, I would say, but you shouldn't allow user input to work on this. The reason why is because if I register a user which that has like some random stuff, it will possibly render that and it will do something bad. So let me just quickly have a look on JS render exploit and see if we can find something. Template injection render. Okay, so there is something actually. And if we have a look at this website, we can see some stuff like this, like some code that's being evaluated, render output, render blah blah blah, welcome, give a name, and you can see that there are like many more things, right? So for example, welcome, good morning guy, and then like give a name, and it will render that. So if we check the code over here, it says usernames. So we can make it ourselves, right? We can basically, just cut the flag maybe, like maybe just print the flag, the content of the flag. Will that work? And just spoiler alert, yes, that's the intended solution, I guess. So the first one is to render the output, the second one is to render an HTML encoded, and this one is to comment, and this one is to allow code. In our case, if I remember properly, we're gonna be using the one that's for what's the name? We're gonna be using either of these two. So evaluate render HTML encoded or render output. So now let's try to create a new user. I'm gonna open a new tab so I can have both tabs over here. Just gonna copy this, gonna copy register, and what I want you to see is what's gonna happen if I create a new username with these kind of tags. I'd use something like this, pound, and then to string, and then just like that. So if I do this and I paste it over here, but instead of doing cat and doing the password, we do the flag.txt, which by the way, we will need to check that in the Docker file. As you can see, is in the root directory. So if I do this, will it work? Perhaps. So let's just put a password, just A, and it's already successfully registered. So if we go back to our users, we can see that the flag is being printed. So I'm just gonna inspect this so I can get the flag, and as you can see, that's the flag. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It was a bit of a long one, but it was pretty good. So if you like these kind of videos, just make sure to give it a like and follow for more. Thank you.